Problem solving starts early with kinematics, and you want to avoid making the same mistakes over and over again. Let's go over these three, starting with number 1. Know the units associated with each variable. This might seem so simple. How could it be that you would even write this down? Well, let me tell you, I taught Regents Physics for many years, and you'd be surprised how many students try to go ahead and put numbers with the wrong unit into an equation just because they need it, and they're not taking the time to think about what they're doing. Distance or displacement, the unit that's used most often is the meter. For velocity, any kind of velocity, meters per second, and then for acceleration, meters per second squared. It's lowercase here only because I can't move it up in the program, but meters per second squared. Make sure that you know what goes with what. Just because you're given a value and you want to put it in for velocity, but it says meters per second squared in the problem, and you're going to ignore that unit, you're making a big mistake. List out then what you're given in the problem, the numbers and the units, along with the words in the problem to match up what you have. Take your time, but stay focused. And if you're practicing, you're going to do well. There are 3 different types of velocities that show up quite early in physics. VI, which is initial velocity, VF, which stands for final velocity, and V with a bar over it, which stands for average velocity. They're all velocities, or speeds for that matter. They all have the units, meters over seconds, but they are different. You can't just go ahead and ignore that you have maybe a final velocity and you're thinking it's an average velocity. If you have an object at rest, or an object that maybe starts out moving and then goes to rest, or starts out at rest and starts moving, then that particular velocity might be equal to 0. But make sure you know what kind of velocity that you have. Of course, I'm also assuming you know how to work with the equations. If your teacher wants you to memorize them, you better have them memorized. But the units with the variables, and number 2 here, knowing that you have 3 different types of velocities, is as important. Number 3. For some reason, there are students that will not follow directions. The problem solving, whatever your teacher is asking you to do, especially if you're in New York State, is because it follows the New York State Physics Regents problem solving protocol. If you want to get full credit when you're asked to show your work, you have to be consistent. Let's take a look. Here we are from the June 2019 Physics Regents exam. Parts B2, B-2, and Part C are your problem solving, where you're recording all your answers. Let's take a look at 51 and 52, 53. Just to give you an example. For 51, it's a 1-point question. You're determining the elastic potential energy stored in the spring, and what they're looking for is the answer. What I was just talking about with the problem solving is the 52-53. This is a 2-point question. It says, show all your work, including the equation and substitution with units. In other words, you're going to write the equation down, you're going to plug in the numbers into that equation with units, and then provide an answer with units. If you don't do all 3, you are not going to get full credit. If you come up with an answer, but you're not following the protocol, you could get the answer correct, but yet get 0 credit. Very important. Don't forget about it. Start now if you haven't already, so you avoid making any silly mistakes in the future. Keep working hard. I know it says nychemcoach, but I also teach physics and AP Chem. More stuff thrown at you. Subscribe if you haven't, and good luck.